predicted the Titans to defeat the Falcons in a great, exciting, close game, and this wasn't a great, exciting, close game because the Titans were an onslaught in the first half. I predicted that Henry would run for 2 touchdowns. He ran for 0 touchdowns, and he'd run for, if I recall right, more than 82 yards. And if I recall right, he did run for 100 yards, so ended up getting that right because he was running over. He did run over more than 82 yards. And I predicted Mariota would throw for 1 touchdown. He did better than what I predicted because he threw for 3 touchdowns, and all those 3 touchdowns that he threw was in the first half. And I predicted the Titans would win 27-24, and Titans, they weren't that far off of those 27 points since they won. They scored 24 points, so I was 3 points off. Falcons were 14. I was way off for the Falcons because they only scored 10 points in this game. In a game they lost 24-10, and I didn't expect the Titans to win 24-10 in Atlanta in a toss-up game against a Falcons team that has the ability to score more than 13 points, mostly at home. And so I was astounded that the Titans won 24-10, and the fact that they scored 24 points in the first half. I was optimistic they would score more than double-digit points in the first half, but I was not expecting 24. And oh yeah, the Titans defense. The Titans defense they were able, unlike the Jaguars game, I compared this to the Jaguars. This was highly different than the Jaguars game because they were effectively pressuring Ryan, so he didn't have a consistent amount. They were able to pressure Ryan, so he didn't have a high amount of time to throw for most of the game. And when they weren't pressuring Ryan, they were able to sack him 5 times. And even though he had time to throw, that wasn't for most of the game, while Minshew, for most of the game in the Titans-Jaguars Thursday Night Football game, he had a high amount of time to throw for most of the game, and he was successfully completed a high amount of passes. The Titans' defense was, as I predicted, was effectively pressuring Ryan for a high amount of the game, which is exactly why they were able to limit the big plays. And Titans defense had a great game because they sacked Ryan 5 times. They limited the Falcons to 10 points in Atlanta. And obviously he also limited the Falcons to 1 offensive touchdown. And Titans defense played great. They ended up stopping, if I recall right, the Falcons 3 times on 4th down, which included on a 4th and 1 for one of those 3. And they also created a turnover, a fumble that they were able to recover. And Titans got off to a fast start since they did score a touchdown, and then they continued to score in the first half, having a lead 24-7 at halftime. And the Titans defense was tyrannical and played so great that they didn't even have to score any points in the second half, which they didn't, and they still won 24-10. The Falcons were able to score a field goal in the second half, and that's all they were able to score in the second half. So even with the Titans getting outscored in the second half, it didn't matter because the Titans defense played great. It was tyrannical for this entire game, which is exactly why they won 24-10, and exactly why they didn't have to score any points in the second half, and they still won by 14 points, 24-10. This was a great Titans team win since, obviously, and they were also winning the field position battle because of getting the Falcons deep in their own territory, even when they weren't scoring points. And it was great to see the Titans actually have an effective first half. And also, like I predicted, they scored points in the first half, so they wouldn't need a double digits comeback in the second half. Since they scored 24 points in the first half, I was expecting them to score enough points that they wouldn't. I said that they would score enough points in the double digits points in the first half, so they wouldn't need a great second half comeback with needing to score double digit points. And that's exactly what they got, because they were leading at halftime 24-7. So they ended up proving me wrong in a number of ways with my prediction. They also ended up proving me right. And the fact that they did better than my prediction, including with Mariota throwing for 3 touchdown passes instead of 1. The Titans end up winning by 14 instead of 3. A game that they easily that they outplayed the Falcons mostly from start to finish after the game was no longer tied at 7-7. So I was extremely satisfied that I was able to watch this game where the Titans played a great full game, and it was watchable for both the first half and the second half, because I was just miserable for that Jaguars game where they got completely outplayed in that first half, and then they ended up they showed some signs of life in that second half versus the Jaguars, but they weren't able to finish that comeback after they scored a needed touchdown, which just frustrated me. And in the Colts game, they were able to play at least 8 effective first half, somewhat effective second half, but then they just completely collapsed in the fourth quarter. So it was great to see the Titans in this 2-game losing streak and win what was a winnable game, since this was a toss-up game with the Falcons also needing to win, and had a slight advantage with this being in Atlanta. And Atlanta's one of the best teams in the Matt Ryan era at home, except they didn't. This looked like a home game for the Titans the way they played, and with them scoring 24 points in the first half, I was expecting to score just more than 14 points in the second half, except they won, so can't really complain about them not scoring any points in the second half, because I want to see the Titans win, whether it's ugly or whether it's pretty. As long as they win, I'm going to be satisfied. And the way the Titans played in the first half, if they can play like that in the first half of most games, except for full games, then they're most likely to be a 13-3 or 14-2 team, or a 12-4 team, and winning the AFC South. And they can be a great team if they can play like that for an entire game, not just for one half. Because there are other teams they'll be playing that they're going to need to play like that for a full game, because that's not going to be successful if you don't. They'll have to probably most likely score more than 24 points. Hypothetically, if they outplay a great team in the first half, most likely they're going to have to play also great in the second half and score points in the second half, because I could see if they play like that against the Chargers, I could see the Chargers coming back in the second half, since they have the arsenal to score points in the second half and come back. Also the Chiefs and the Saints and maybe the Buccaneers, because they did hang up more than 40 points against the Rams. So I could see also, again, another one where if they played great in the first half and they outscored them, that the Buccaneers have the arsenal to come back and score enough points to defeat the Titans. So this is one of those where, yes, they outplayed the Falcons, but if they use that same formula, they're going to have to actually score second half points to defeat great teams. And they'll have to actually score second half points in the second half to actually beat great teams after outplaying a great team in the first half. And I'm not drinking the Titans. I'm really, really happy with this win, so the Titans can finish the first quarter of the season at 2-2. Obviously, I'd want them to be 3-1 or 4-0, because I'm still happy that they are 2-2. Because I would have been really unhappy if they were 1-3 and what was a winnable game, what was a toss-up winnable game at the Falcons. And Titans highly benefited because the Texans end up losing to the Panthers at home. Colts end up losing at home to the Raiders. Raiders played great on the road, and Jaguars were able to come back and beat the Broncos, so they didn't benefit from that, but they were benefiting with the Texans. They ended up losing, and the Colts ended up losing. So two teams that were on winning streaks, the Colts and Texans, that ended, which the Titans highly benefited from. And so now the AFC South, after 4 games, is all 2-2. All 4 teams are 2-2. I didn't expect that at all, and maybe that's the first time that's ever happened in the history of the AFC South and in the history of the 4 teams division, which first got started in 2002 after the Texans entered the NFL and played their first season. And I'm not drinking the Titan and the Mariota. He also played a great game because he was making those critical passes, including he ended up throwing a pass to A.J. Brown, and he easily ran for a touchdown for the first Titans touchdown. He easily ran more than 20 yards for the Titans' first touchdown. He ended up throwing a touchdown pass again to Brown and in the far corner of the end zone. A great pass. Again, a kind of pass that you wouldn't have been able to make, put it in the right spot, because he didn't put it in the right spot against the Jaguars, and the Jaguars were able to effectively defend it. So great pass by Mariota, and he also threw a tight, close to the sidelines pass to Davis, and Davis was able to run into the end zone for a touchdown, and he was completing most of his passes and only running when he had to, which wasn't a high amount of time. Great game by Mariota, and for the passes he wasn't completing, I saw most of them, he had some passes that he wasn't completing that he should have completed, except the other passes he wasn't completing it's because they were throwaway passes. Played a great game. And I'm not going to overreact to this because this was a Falcons team that was also struggling. There was also a need to win game. And also because the Titans, after 4 games, they haven't shown any consistency since they won a game, they lost 2 games, and then they've won a game after the two games losing streak. So I'm not drinking the Titans Kool-Aid that they've turned their season around. They're going to have to show me against the Bills that this wasn't a one-game wonder, which would be if they win that game, then, which I'm optimistic they do win that game, then they increase the win streak to 2 games, except also mainly show me consistency within the next 4 to 5 games, starting with the Bills. Show me that they can. I want them, the Titans, to show me that they can create win consecutive games, they can win a high amount of consecutive games, meaning 4 games or more for the next 5 games. So they'd have to win, starting with the Bills, they'd have to win 4 consecutive, they've already started with the Falcons. For the next 3 of the 5 games, if they can if they can win 4 consecutive games, if they can win 4 consecutive games for their next 5 games, then I'd say they've turned their season. I'll say they're turning their season around, which could be the Bills and then the next 2 teams they play after the Bills. And if it ends at the Bills, then they could still have, for the 4 games after the Bills, then go on a 4-game winning streak. Except I would mainly want them to see them defeat the Bills, since that's a winnable game. I want to see them defeat the Bills since that's a winnable game, and then go for... What do you think I'm already doing, Alex? Really? I want to see them defeat the Bills, and besides defeat the Bills, then also win another game, go on a 4-game winning. Again, I'd say they're turning their season around if they can win 4 consecutive games, which is highly possible because they play the Bills, winnable game, and then see if they can win 2 more consecutive games to increase that win streak to 4 games. Can that happen? Yeah, but they're going to have to show me on the field. So So the next 5 game. So to be exact, we're going with it's the Bills NFL Week 5 to Week 10. This will be Titans. Show me that you turned the season around with these next 5 games by winning 4 consecutive games or higher. In Week 5 to Week 10. I would want that to happen. I would want that to happen with since they've already started the win streak against the Falcons. I'd want that to happen for 6, 7, 8, and 9. Obviously, that would be 5-game win streak, and that would be better. That would be better than just 4 games. But again, I'm putting the bar at. I'll say the Titans have turned their season around if they can win 4 consecutive games or higher, which obviously started with, obviously will be Week 5 to Week 10. They already have the advantage of a one-game winning streak since they defeated the Falcons. Now, can they win 4 consecutive games or higher? We'll find out in Week 5 to Week 10. Like I said, I've already put the bar at they have to win 4 consecutive games in Week 5, shown in Week 5 to Week 10. If they do that, then I'll say they've turned their season around. That is the bar. They can do that. If they can do that in Week 5 to Week 10, which they would have to, if they don't lose it, if they can win the next 3 consecutive games, then I can say that Week 5, 6, and 7, I'll say that they've turned the season around. Or if they're able to win 4 consecutive games after losing to the Bills, 4 consecutive games or higher. Again, that's the bar. That's what they're going to have to do for me to say the Titans have turned their season around. They have to win 4 consecutive games. And they already have the advantage of already having a 1-game winning streak since they started versus the Falcons Week 4. So let's see if Week 5 to Week 10, if they can reach the bar of winning 4 consecutive games, which if they do it ideally, that'll be Week 7, Week 4, Week 7. They've won 4 consecutive games. I can say, ideally, that they've turned their season around. And even better, if they can win more than 4 consecutive games. Let's find it. Can't wait to watch Can't wait to see them play the Bills. A Bills team that's going to be looking to rebound after losing a heartbreaker to the Patriots, and see if the Titans can show me that great win versus the Falcons wasn't fool's gold for Week 5 to Week 17. Thanks, I got it from Target, this Aladdin t-shirt. The original Aladdin 1992 Disney movie that I